So there's a disclaimer for you. Like it, pause it if you want to read it. All right, what we're going to be discussing in today's tax alert is no tax on overtime. How's it going to work? Who's it going to impact? And what kind of tax savings are we looking at with this thing? And I'll tell you, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Well, let's dig into it a little bit. Now, let's talk about overtime first, a little bit of background on overtime, where it came from. Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938 established overtime, and it established as a pay rate equal to time and a half of one's regular hourly wage. And what that means is overtime is defined as any hours you work over 40 hours during a consistently measured work week by your employer, that they have to pay time and a half on those hours. Now, what I mean by consistently measured work week is most folks work Monday to Friday, but we're talking a 7-day week. So this consistently measured week by the employer for most of us is going to be Monday to Sunday. So if you work over 40 hours during that period, the hours over 40, that's overtime pay. And what they need to do is pay you a little bit more. So if your regular pay was $20 per hour, your overtime rate's going to be $30 per hour. So you get time and a half. That's a $10 bump up at $20 an hour. So you're making 50% more than you would otherwise. So where does no tax on overtime come about? How did it happen? July 4th, 2025, President Trump signed the big, beautiful bill, and it rewrote much of the tax code. Once again, the Inflation Reduction Act just a few years ago rewrote much of the tax code. This one erased a lot of that still wet ink and rewrote it with some other new wet ink. So in addition to rewriting much of the tax code, it also made overtime tax-free. So what exactly does this mean? Well, let's dig into it a little bit more. It made up to $12,500 if you're single, tax-free on your tax return. That's $12,500 of overtime. $25,000 if you're married filing jointly. You can have up to $25,000 tax-free of overtime. If you're married filing separately, we're sorry, you don't get it. You have to file jointly or single or head of household to get no tax on overtime. Now, here's the thing. Is it really, really no tax on overtime? Remember, I just explained what overtime was. It's time and a half. If you're making $20 an hour, overtime's $30 an hour. So is it really no tax on overtime? Is it? The issue's been a little confused and blurry. So it's really not. What it really is no tax on 1/3 of overtime, but that's horrible marketing. So no tax on overtime's really no tax on 1/3 of your overtime pay. It only applies to the overtime premium. So again, going back to our example, you're making $20 an hour as your regular wage. Your overtime rate's $30 an hour. So $10 per hour is what is going to be tax-free. It's still good. Don't get me wrong, it's still good, but everybody was thinking, wow, a lot of folks work 10, 15 hours overtime a week. That would be a lot of tax savings. Still a good deal. Don't get me wrong. All right, so how's this going to work on the tax return? Well, overtime is going to be reported on your W-2, so it's still going to be included in your income. It's going to be included on your W-2 in box 1, which you kind of can see up here. I got the arrow pointing to box 14 because that's where the overtime is going. The overtime portion of what's in box 1 is going to, for 2025, will show up in box 14, or your employer is going to give you a statement. We're not completely sure yet because it's a little too late for the IRS to change everything in the system. So for 2025, it's kind of be a toss-up. 2026 and later, as far as we know, it's going to appear in box 12 with a code TT. Box 12 is pretty important because that'll go right into your tax software if you're using it. And hopefully your tax software will know how to treat it. For 2025, you're going to have to probably manually enter it somewhere in the tax software to make it work right. So your overtime is reported on your W-2. It's going to be included in your income. It's also going to be included in what is called your adjusted gross income. This was a point of confusion at first because a lot of us were hoping it was subtracted before you got to adjusted gross income because that would impact a lot of credits. That means you would probably qualify for a lot more credits because your income would be reduced, and a lot of credits are really income related, income based. They all phase out, kind of like this deduction does. And also another bonus, if you subtract it before reaching adjusted gross income, which it's not, is it wouldn't be taxed in many states because a lot of states use adjusted gross income as their starting point for taxation. So it's kind of a bummer. But anyways, it's going to be included in adjusted gross income, and then it's going to be subtracted before we arrive at taxable income, which you're ultimately taxed on. So what's the catch? Well, we kind of discussed part of it, and 1/3 of overtime is part of it. But is there any other catches here? Well, it's only around for 4 years, 2025 to 2028. Again, the maximum deduction of overtime is $12,500 if you're single, $25,000 if you're married, fine, joint. Still a good deal. Not a catch yet. There are some income limits, but really for most of us, this isn't going to impact most hourly wage workers. So if you're single, if you make under less than $150,000 a year, you're going to get all your overtime. At least that portion of it's deductible is going to be deductible. You're not going to pay tax on it. And so a phase out starts at $150,000 up to $275,000. Once you're past $275,000 of adjusted gross income or modified adjusted gross income, you're not going to get any of your overtime to be deducted. So it's all going to be taxed. Married, filing jointly, the phase out doesn't start to $300,000. Pretty good deal. And you don't lose deduction entirely until you reach $550,000. So I hope that made sense to you. I hope this helped you with your tax planning or just to get you, informed what's going on in the tax world. We thank you for watching our 2-minute tax alert, and we thank you for choosing overnightaccountant.com